Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 29, The Punchy Pokemon. The episode begins on a random walkway with a girl spying on a seemingly wild Hitmonchan doing its training. Ash and the gang then encounter this Hitmonchan, and after Ash checks his Pokedex, he learns that Hitmonchan is described as the champion Pokemon, and anyone who's able to beat it would also become a champion. This gets Ash excited, who encourages Pikachu to try his best to beat it, so Pikachu could prove that it was a champion. Adding how if a wild Pokemon training on its own could reach champion level, there's no way Pikachu couldn't, with the help it's had from Ash, who decides to help Pikachu even further by teaching him his own secret punch. Brock and Misty question how effective this secret punch of Ash's would even be. I mean, he's a 10-year-old, he's had no father figure, who's taught him how to punch? Is he just angry that he has no dad and that's what happened, or what? Pikachu obviously had doubts with Ash as well, being scared to take on the Hitmonchan, but he decides to when Ash explains that he wants to try capturing it. But unfortunately, Pikachu's initial skepticism is proved right, as he is immediately countered by the Hitmonchan, who is growing bored. He's like, man, this little mouse bitch is weak. Ash gets fired up, though, and reminds Pikachu to actually use the punch that Ash taught it, instead of just going in willy-nilly, and Pikachu actually manages to get in a hit because of this. Damn, maybe being fatherless actually does do something for you, Ash. But unfortunately, the hit looked more devastating initially. Really, it was just a scratch on on Pikachu's part. Hitmonchan is basically still unfazed at this point. This causes Hitmonchan to become bored, just like he was originally expecting when it accepted Pikachu's challenge. But then a trainer comes up to it and reminds it to never get cocky or back down on a fight. The man is then revealed as Hitmonchan's trainer, as it commands it to take Pikachu out with its punches, which it does in no time flat at all. I mean, it is the champion Pokemon after all. The man is ecstatic with the win, even though it was basically guaranteed from the beginning, and Ash is obviously disappointed. But Ash isn't the only one who's disappointed, as the girl from behind the tree from earlier comes out and explains that she is the man's daughter, and begs him to come home to her and her mother, and quit trying to be a Pokemon trainer so much. I guess fatherlessness is a common theme this episode, as the dad declines, stating how his most important goal was essentially to win the upcoming Fighting Pokemon tournament, the P1 Grand Prix, and he wouldn't return home until he did so. He then storms off to train. Her father's dickishness obviously pisses off the girl, and Brock immediately takes the opportunity to try and comfort her, being a simp as usual, and asks if there's anything he can do. She confirms that she would like him to try and beat her dad at the tournament, so that would force him to come home, to which Brock obviously accepts immediately. Personally, I think this plan of the daughters was a little flawed, as if Brock and Ash were to beat the father, then he would just become more motivated to train for the next tournament, right? Whereas if he just won this one tournament, maybe he would stop there. But who knows? He may have been motivated to keep going regardless, and then just try and get bigger and bigger. Like maybe there's a P2 Grand Tournament, and he would have just went to win that one. So I understand why she wanted to try and beat him. Anyways, Brock doesn't just enter himself though, which is probably for the best, as I mean, he has entirely rock Pokemon, right? Wouldn't they get destroyed by fighting Pokemon? Well, he also convinces Ash to enter as well, and Ash enters in with his Primeape, which Misty remarks isn't the best idea when she remembers how wild Primeape was, and how it basically almost killed Charmander, and it wasn't obeying Ash at the moment, but Ash still decides to use it, and Brock uses his Geodude. Which is also confusing, as Geodude isn't a fighting type, and the entire thing is that it's a fighting type exclusive tournament. Man, this episode's kind of stupid now that I think about it. They must have retconned Geodude being a fighting type or something, or the anime staff were just on crack. Meanwhile, Team Rocket see an advertisement for the P1 Grand Prix as well, and they see that the reward is a gold championship belt. This makes Meowth and James realize what they could spend the money on if they won that belt and sold it, really wanting a huge buffet. Jessie then smacks them in anger, though, stating that they shouldn't waste it on something like food, and instead go on a shopping spree, or go to the hair salon. James then realizes, though, that they're getting ahead of themselves, as you need a fighting Pokemon to enter the tournament, which they don't have, so this leads Jessie to suggest stealing one. But once again, Brock's going in with his Geodude. They could really just go in with whoever they want then, right? But Team Rocket being Team Rocket, decide to steal one, stealing a Hitmonlee from a random man. They then do something that's actually pretty evil for them, which is tying him up afterwards so that he can't try and get Hitmonlee back, and stealing his clothes, and disguising themselves as him, so no one gets suspicious. He was probably an already famous fighter by the sounds of it, so people would probably notice if he went missing, so they had to disguise themselves as him, so no one noticed, I guess. But I think they would notice Jessie's long-ass hair, you know? But we already established this episode doesn't make sense. The tournament then begins as the announcer introduces all the competitors, starting with the girl's dad, Anthony, because he is the most well-known competitor, because he won the last tournament. I guess this does justify his daughter's thoughts about wanting to defeat the father a bit more, as since he won the last one, maybe she thinks that he won't be as dedicated once he loses once, you know? But still, doesn't make perfect sense. Anyways, the other competitors are eventually introduced, including Jessie and James disguised as that one guy, as James is really struggling to hold Jessie up. I don't know why James just doesn't go on the top. Jessie's probably stronger. And Ash and Brock are also introduced. With James struggling to hold Jesse up, he makes a sound, which alerts Ash, and he becomes suspicious, like, what's that sound? How'd that sound come out of a woman, right? But despite how he should be an expert at discovering Team Rocket's disguises by now, Jesse manages to confirm to him that there's nothing wrong, cause Ash is a dumbass. Then, the first battle of the tournament officially begins, being Ash's Primeape versus a Machop. Machop immediately gains the other hand, striking Primeape rapidly, causing Primeape to get sent to the back of the ring. It immediately tries its best to get back up though, going in for a huge kick attack. Misty and Anthony's daughter watch in concern, obviously not thinking that Primeape could stand up to the Machop, and they were right, as Machop grabs Primeape's leg as it tries to kick. When Ash checks his Pokedex, he learns of Machop's move, Seismic Toss, which appears to be what it's gearing up to do, as it grabs Primeape's leg and tosses it into the air, throwing it across the ring. Ash jumps for it, not wanting it to get injured, but he misses as Primeape lands right outside the ring. Ash asks Primeape if it's okay, attempting to bond with it, but Primeape simply responds by almost crying, so much for its tough guy act, right? But Ash manages to motivate it to get back into the ring and try its best, which eventually leads Primeape to stop being a wimp and get back into the arena. This obviously surprises Misty, who notices how Primeape has never listened to anybody before, including Ash at the end of the episode where he caught it, and she wonders why he's listening now. I think it's because Primeape likes to act like a tough guy, right? So seeing Ash want to do the same and do all this fighting, he was motivated to want to keep going. This newfound motivation of Primeape's, along with it now listening to Ash due to it respecting it, allows him to win against the Machop by using Scratch and Mega Kick. Let's go! Primeape and Ash celebrate, as even Anthony looks on, impressed. The next match then begins, being Geodude versus Hitmonlee, Team Rocket versus Brock. When the battle starts though, Brock pays more attention to Anthony's daughter, being the simp that he is, as opposed to the battle. So he's so focused on waving to her and being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win this shit, we got this, that Geodude comes in and catches him by surprise, creating a huge dent on his head, due to being knocked out of the arena by Hitmonlee. Brock sends in Geodude again foolishly though, where he gets even more absolutely obliterated, much to Brock's annoyance. Anthony then convinces Brock to forfeit the match, stating that since Geodude was just getting his ass beat, there was no point in having him be tortured. So Brock reluctantly obliges and apologizes to Geodude for making him fight such a tough battle, and is happy that Geodude just isn't dead. Which, I mean, fair enough. You sent in a rock Pokemon against a fighting one. I don't know how the fuck you thought it was fighting type. You're a rock type specialist. Also, how come Anthony didn't encourage Pikachu to forfeit when it was getting its ass beat? Maybe it's because he was winning? Maybe he just said this to Brock so he could take down the competition. Man, I don't fucking like this guy. Despite Brock now being out of the tournament, Ash reassures him that he and Primeape, now in sync, have got this shit. They were going to win. And we see a lot of the remaining matches in a brief montage, including one between a Poliwrath and a Machamp. I wish we got to see their trainers, but it's cool to see their anime debuts. Presumably the reason why we don't see any more of them, though, is because they're all eventually defeated by either Anthony, Ash, or Jesse and James, who are the final competitors by the end of the tournament. Now, I assume Ash didn't take out the Machamp, as he struggled to take out a Machop. But anyways, the next match is now between Team Rocket and Anthony. Jesse isn't confident that Team Rocket can win against the current champion of the tournament, so James and Meowth come up with an idea to help, which is to plant glue on the stadium, therefore trapping Hitmonchan so it can't move and get off any attacks. Now, once again, Anthony is just the biggest hypocrite, because despite telling Brock to forfeit because his Pokemon was getting hurt, Anthony refuses to forfeit as Hitmonchan's getting absolutely abused, to the point where his daughter steps in and gets in the middle of the fight to save Hitmonchan. This at least brings Anthony back to his senses, as he jumps in to save his daughter, and then throws in the towel later. It's great that this moment makes him realize that his family is what should be truly important to him over a battle, and he apologizes to his daughter for basically abandoning them to pursue his dream, just as Ash's dad did to him, really. But I think it should have took the concern that he had for Hitmonchan for him to be able to throw in the towel, not just his daughter, right? Ash and the gang are immensely happy for the girl and her father, who are now on good terms once again, and Misty comments on how, although the father's fighting was what initially caused the rift in their relationship, at least it did some good by helping mend the relationship. With Team Rocket having won the match against Anthony, the finals are now Team Rocket versus Ash, and Team Rocket decides to go up to Ash and the gang and taunt them. But by doing so, James obviously has to come out of the disguise, thus revealing themselves to Ash and the gang, and the fact that they were not actually Hitmonlee's original owner. They don't seem to care now, though, probably assuming that they couldn't get disqualified because they were in the final, and they wouldn't want to ruin the finals, right? So they try and say their standard Team Rocket motto as usual, but then James collapses on the floor, and Jesse lands on him in a suggestive pose, due to James not being strong enough to hold her up, which causes an entire funny scene of Ash basically shipping James and Jesse together, and it's hilarious. Because if there's one ship that makes sense, it's that one, as they're both consenting adults. Anyways, the finals then commence, with Primeape getting his ass beat in the beginning, but managing to make a comeback when Ash motivates him even more. But then Pikachu spots Meowth sneaking under the arena, planting something, being a bomb, which Team Rocket plans to use when Hitmonlee jumps into the air during the battle, as when Hitmonlee is in the air, the bomb will only affect what's on the ground in the arena, being Primeape, knocking Primeape unable to battle. Pikachu tries his best to warn Ash about this, but Ash is too distracted in the current battle, so he takes matters into his own hands, and seemingly manages to temporarily disarm the bomb, as when Hitmonlee jumps up, as Team Rocket planned, and they try and detonate the bomb, it doesn't work, leading Primeape to be able to grab Hitmonlee while he's in the air, much to the shock of everyone, and utilizes Seismic Toss, which it must have picked up from the Machop in the first battle, to slam Hitmonlee down into the ground, winning the battle and the tournament, leading Ash, Primeape, and Brock to all celebrate as Primeape gets the championship belt, which Ash happily congratulates Primeape on being able to achieve, as Primeape brags about winning the belt, proud that it finally proved how tough it really was. Primeape certainly proved itself to Anthony, who then asks Ash if he could train it at his training dojo to make it even stronger and become a reigning P1 Grand Prix champion. So there, that just proves that even though Anthony lost, he just became more motivated to train again. Sure, he knows now to spend time with his family and he's not going to neglect them, but who knows that he won't fall back into his same habits. But anyways, who cares about Anthony at this point? As for Team Rocket, they're still extremely mad that their plan didn't work, and they question why. Pikachu then comes out from underneath the stage and successfully gets the bomb's controller to work, leading Meowth to thank him, thinking that Pikachu actually was there to help them for some reason, I don't know why. But no, Pikachu had since reactivated the bomb after Primeape had won, so now that the bomb was reactivated, the controller being used would cause an explosion, so the explosion occurs, sending Team Rocket blasting off. The episode ends with Ash saying goodbye to Primeape, and Primeape bearing its teary eyes at him, despite now officially being seen as a tough Pokemon, one last time. Ash and the gang then leave, with Ash releasing his Primeape, as Anthony promises to train him to be the very best he can be. And who knows, maybe he actually failed at that and did spend time with his daughter after all, as we never see Primeape again after this moment. Rest in peace, Primeape.